The cargo ship Star Wanderer drifted through the star-filled void, its metal hull gleaming under the light of distant suns. To most observers, it looked like any other merchant vessel, a bit old, perhaps, but well-maintained. However, there was something about this particular ship that made it unique in the bustling space lanes of the galactic trade routes. It had a human crew member. Jack stood at his workstation on the bridge, his calloused hands moving across the control panels with practiced ease. He was the only human for 50 light-years in any direction, a fact that still amused him even after 6 months aboard. Around him, the ship's automated systems hummed quietly, their soft blue lights casting gentle shadows across his weathered face. "Jack, status report on Cargo Vol 3. Captain Blue's crystalline voice chimed from the command station. The captain's crystalline form sparkled as he turned his geometric head toward his human crew member. "All secure, Captain," Jack replied, double-checking the readings. "Though I still think we should redistribute some weight from sections of 4 to B2. Might help with our fuel efficiency." The captain's crystalline features shifted in what Jack had learned was an expression of mild surprise. Even after all these months, his human crew member's constant suggestions for improvements never ceased to amaze him. "Your species' obsession with optimization continues to perplex me," Blue commented, his voice resonating like wind chimes. "The current distribution falls well within acceptable parameters." Jack smiled but didn't argue. He'd learned to pick his battles with his logical Meridian captain. Instead, he focused on monitoring the ship's systems, something that many found odd. After all, in an age of advanced automation and AI assistance, having the human manually checking readings seemed redundant. But that was exactly why Captain Blue had hired him. 6 months ago, when Jack had applied for the position at the Centauri spaceport, most captains had laughed him out of their offices. Humans were considered too unpredictable, too emotional, too inefficient. The standard crew of any modern cargo vessel consisted of 1 or 2 sentient beings overseeing a network of automated systems. Adding a human to the mix seemed like asking for trouble. But Blue had been different. The Meridian captain had studied Earth's history with fascination, particularly humans' knack for surviving against impossible odds. When pirates began targeting cargo ships with increasing frequency, Blue made an unprecedented decision. He hired Jack. Approaching the Varex belt, Jack announced, watching as a field of asteroids came into view. "Permission to take manual control for the passage." Blue's crystalline form flickered with what might have been amusement. "The navigation AI can plot an optimal course through the asteroid field with 99.98% accuracy." "True," Jack agreed, his fingers already hovering over the manual controls. "But pirates know that. They know exactly how the AI thinks, exactly what route it'll choose. But they don't know how a human thinks." The captain considered this for a moment, his geometric patterns shifting in thought. "Proceed," he finally said. "But do try to avoid any unnecessary deviations this time. The last passage you plotted was highly irregular." "That's the point, Captain." Jack grinned, taking the controls. "Irregular is unpredictable. Unpredictable is safe." As Jack guided the Star Wanderer through the asteroid field, taking seemingly random turns and using larger rocks as cover, a small sign on the ship's hull caught the light of a distant star. It read, "Warning to pirates. This ship has a human aboard." Most passed it off as a joke or an odd attempt at deterrence. They didn't know that the warning was deadly serious. They didn't know that this simple cargo ship, with its unusual human crew member, was about to become a legend in the space lanes. And they certainly didn't know that Jack's presence would soon make the Star Wanderer the most feared merchant vessel in the sector. Not for its weapons or defenses, but for the unpredictable, innovative, and sometimes terrifying human ingenuity it carried on board. In the dimly lit corner of the Starfall trading port's most notorious bar, 3 figures huddled around a grimy table. The establishment was famous for its questionable clientele, and tonight was no exception. Red lighting cast an ominous glow over the varied alien faces that filled the space. "You're telling me they have a what aboard?" growled Scratch, the leader of the Red Claw pirates. His scaled face twisted in disbelief as he leaned forward, nearly knocking over his drink. "A human," repeated the informant, "a small rodent-like creature with twitching whiskers. Been with them for 6 months now. Ship's called the Star Wanderer." The third figure, a towering alien with metallic skin, let out a rattling laugh. "A human. Those soft creatures from that backwater planet. This must be some kind of joke." But Scratch wasn't laughing. He'd heard whispers about this ship, strange stories about how it always seemed to avoid trouble, taking routes that made no logical sense yet somehow working out perfectly. Now it all made sense. They had a human aboard. "Tell me more," Scratch demanded, sliding a credit chip across the table. The informant's whiskers twitched faster. "Captain's a Meridian named Blue. Typical crystal head. All logic and numbers. But the human, that's where it gets interesting. Name's Jack. Word is, he manually pilots through asteroid fields, rewrites cargo manifests to hide valuable goods in plain sight, and keeps changing the ship's routine. No fixed patterns." Scratch's reptilian eyes narrowed. "Humans are inefficient, emotional, weak. This makes the ship a perfect target." "Boss," the metallic alien interrupted, "I heard stories from my cousin about Earth wars. Humans can be unpredictable." "Exactly why they're dangerous to have on a cargo ship," Scratch snapped. "We strike at their next stop. The Star Wanderer's cargo holds are always full, and now we know why they've been lucky so far. But luck runs out." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Star Wanderer's reputation was spreading in other ways. At the grand commercial station of Beta Centauri, Captain Blue stood before the Merchant Council, defending his unusual hiring choice. "Your decision to employ a human crew member has raised concerns," stated the council head, her holographic form flickering. "It defies standard efficiency protocols." Blue's crystalline form sparkled under the council chamber's lights. "Our productivity has increased by 23.7% since adding Jack to the crew. Unconventional approaches have proven beneficial." "Unconventional?" Another council member scoffed. "We've received reports of manual asteroid navigation, irregular route selections, and constant system modifications. All of which," Blue countered, "have resulted in 0 successful pirate attacks on our vessel, while similar ships have reported a 40% increase in raids." Back on the Star Wanderer, Jack was blissfully unaware of both conversations. He sat in the cargo hold, teaching the ship's maintenance robots to play poker, another modification that Captain Blue pretended not to notice. The robots were terrible at bluffing, their logic circuits unable to grasp the concept of strategic deception. But Jack insisted it was good practice for them. "You see," he explained to a confused robot, "sometimes the best move isn't the most logical one. Sometimes you have to make others think you're weak when you're strong, or strong when you're weak." The robot's processors whirred as it tried to compute this paradox. Behind them, mounted on the wall, was a small screen showing the ship's external warning sign. "Warning to pirates. This ship has a human aboard." The sign glowed steadily in the dim light, its message about to be tested sooner than anyone aboard realized. The Star Wanderer cruised through a quiet sector of space, its engines humming steadily as it carried its cargo of machine parts and processed minerals. Jack sat at his station on the bridge, feet propped up on a spare console, teaching Captain Blue about an old Earth concept called Murphy's Law. "So you're saying," Blue's crystalline form sparkled with confusion, "that humans actually plan for things to go wrong?" "Exactly," Jack grinned. "If something can go wrong, it will go wrong. So The ship's alarm suddenly blared to life, cutting him off mid-sentence. Red warning lights flashed across the bridge as the computer announced, "Warning. Multiple vessels detected. Hostile signatures confirmed." "Speaking of Murphy's Law," Jack muttered, jumping to his station. "3 ships, Captain. Coming in fast from behind that large asteroid." Blue's form shifted to emergency configuration, his crystals aligning for maximum processing efficiency. Red Claw signatures. They disabled our primary engines with their first shot. Very precise. Jack's fingers flew across his console, already making adjustments. They'd been studying us. That shot was too perfect to be lucky. He pulled up the ship's systems on his screen. Permission to get creative, Captain. Define creative, Blue said cautiously, watching as the pirate ships moved to surround them. Remember those modifications I made to the cargo loading systems last week? The ones I specifically asked you not to make. Those would be the ones. Yes. The bridge comm system crackled to life with a gravelly voice. Star Wanderer, this is Captain Scratch of the Red Claw. Your engines are disabled. Your cargo holds will be emptied. Resist, and we space your atmosphere. Blue's crystals pulsed with concern. They have us surrounded, Jack. Standard protocol. With all due respect, Captain, Jack interrupted, his fingers never stopping their dance across the controls. Standard protocol is exactly what they're expecting. But they've never faced a human before. The captain was quiet for a moment, his crystalline form shifting through various patterns. Finally, he said, proceed with your creative solution. But Jack, try not to destroy our ship in the process. Jack's grin would have made a shark proud. Captain Scratch, he broadcast back, this is Jack, human crew member of the Star Wanderer. We surrender. Blue's crystals almost cracked in surprise, but Jack held up a hand, still smiling. The pirates didn't take long to act. Their boarding ships attached to the Star Wanderer's airlocks with metallic clangs that echoed through the hull. Jack watched his displays intently as the first group of pirates cut through the outer airlock door. Shouldn't we be doing something? Blue asked, watching Jack's apparent lack of action. Oh, we are, Jack replied, fingers hovering over a particular button. Remember how I rewired the cargo loading systems to the artificial gravity plating, and how I modified the maintenance robots to play poker? I fail to see how teaching robots to play cards helps our current situation. It's not about the poker, Captain. It's about teaching them to bluff. The inner airlock door opened, and the first group of pirates stepped aboard, weapons ready. Jack pressed his button. Throughout the ship, every cargo loading magnetic clamp activated at once. The artificial gravity in the corridors reversed instantly, and 12 maintenance robots, their poker lessons complete, activated their newly installed defense protocols. The pirates' confident entrance turned into chaos as they found themselves floating upside down, facing a dozen robots who had learned from Jack that sometimes the best defense was a good bluff, and sometimes the best bluff involved turning cleaning tools into surprisingly effective weapons. What's happening? Scratch's voice crackled over the comm, hearing the chaos from his crew. Just a normal day aboard a ship with a human crew member, Jack replied cheerfully. Would you like to see what else we can do? Chaos ruled the corridors of the Star Wanderer. The first wave of pirates floated helplessly in the reversed gravity field, their weapons useless as they tumbled end over end. The maintenance robots, moving with perfect precision in the Zerog environment, had already disarmed half of them using modified cleaning tools as improvised weapons. This is impossible, one pirate shouted, spinning slowly in the air as a robot approached him with what appeared to be a mop, but crackled with electrical energy. In the ship's control room, Jack worked his console with intense focus. Captain, remember those mineral samples we picked up last week? The ones with magnetic properties. Blue's crystalline form sparkled with understanding. The ones you insisted on storing in Cargo Vault B instead of the secure vault. Watch this, Jack grinned, typing in a command. Throughout the ship, the magnetic minerals activated, creating localized magnetic fields. The pirates' metallic weapons and equipment suddenly pulled them in different directions, making their confusion even worse. On his command ship, Scratch watched in growing fury as his first boarding team failed to report in. Second team, breached the starboard airlock. He ordered. They must have gotten lucky with the first group. No human trick will work twice. The second team of pirates cut through the starboard airlock, moving more cautiously than the first group. But Jack was ready for them too. "You know those entertainment holoprojectors I installed in the corridors?" Jack asked Blue while activating another sequence. "I may have modified them a bit." The second team of pirates stepped into a corridor that seemed to stretch infinitely in both directions, filled with duplicate images of themselves coming at them from every angle. The holographic maze, combined with the strange gravity fluctuations, left them completely disoriented. "This is why humans are dangerous," one pirate screamed, shooting at his own reflection. "They don't fight logically." Captain Blue watched the security feeds with growing amazement. "Jack, did you plan for this specific scenario?" "Not exactly," Jack replied, still working his controls. "But on Earth, we have a saying, hope for the best, plan for the worst. I just made sure we had tools that could be used in creative ways." Through the ship's speakers, they could hear Scratch's increasingly frustrated orders. "Third team, take the maintenance shaft. They can't have trapped every entrance." Jack's smile grew wider. Actually, he pressed another button. The maintenance shaft, which the pirates thought would be their secret entrance, had been prepared too. As the third team entered, they found themselves caught in a web of sticky industrial sealant, the same stuff used to patch hull breaches in emergencies. "The human is in the control room." Scratch's voice boomed. "All remaining teams, concentrate fire on Deck 3. Cut through the hull if you have to." Now that, Jack said seriously, would be a very bad idea. He turned to Blue. "Captain, remember how you said my habit of rerouting power conduits was inefficient?" Blue's crystals pulsed with what might have been laughter. "Let me guess, those inefficient power reroutes are about to prove very useful. The pirates think they found our weakness, the control room on Deck 3, Jack explained. "But I moved all controls to the backup bridge 2 months ago. That room they're about to breach." He paused for dramatic effect. "It's now just a big power junction, and if they cut through those walls..." On cue, they heard Scratch yell, "Begin cutting," followed almost immediately by shouts of alarm as the pirates discovered what happens when you cut into a room full of rerouted power conduits. "You realize," Blue said, watching the pirates retreat in disorder, "that we'll have to file a very interesting report about all these modifications you made to my ship." "Our ship," Jack corrected with a smile. "And I kept receipts for everything. Most of it, anyway." Scratch stood on the bridge of his command ship, his scaled fists clenched in rage as he watched another team of his pirates retreat from the Star Wanderer. Nothing was going according to plan. What should have been an easy raid had turned into a humiliating disaster. "Enough games," he snarled into the comm. "Star Wanderer, you have one chance left. Surrender now, or we'll destroy your ship entirely." Inside the Star Wanderer's backup bridge, Jack looked at Captain Blue with a glint in his eye. "They're desperate now, Captain, and desperate opponents make mistakes. I assume you have another creative solution." Blue's crystalline form shimmered with what had become genuine curiosity rather than his usual concern. "Remember those cargo containers of industrial coolant we're carrying?" Jack asked, his fingers already moving across his console. "The ones rated for extreme temperature conditions. The ones you insisted on storing in an unusual pattern around the outer hull." "Exactly," Jack grinned. "Time to show these pirates why humans love a good trap." On the main viewer, they could see Scratch's ships moving into attack formation. The pirates had lost nearly 30 crew members to Jack's various defenses, but they still had overwhelming firepower, or so they thought. "Final warning," Scratch broadcast. "Surrender or..." "Actually," Jack interrupted, "I have a counteroffer. Look at your sensor readings." There was a moment of silence. Then Scratch's voice came back, confusion evident in his tone. What are you doing?" Jack had activated the coolant containers, releasing their contents in a specific pattern around the Star Wanderer. In the vacuum of space, the industrial coolant instantly froze, creating a cloud of crystalline particles that spread out in a carefully planned web. Those crystals, Jack explained casually, are now forming a reflective field around our ship. Your weapons targeting systems won't be able to tell which signatures are real and which are reflections. But that's not the best part. He pressed another button. The frozen coolant particles began to rotate, catching and reflecting light from nearby stars. To the pirate ships, it appeared as if the Star Wanderer had suddenly multiplied into dozens of identical images. Which one is real? Jack broadcast. Want to guess? But I should warn you, some of those reflections are hiding some interesting surprises. Those maintenance robots really enjoyed setting up the automated defense turrets we disguised as cargo containers. Captain Blue's crystals pulsed with realization. The irregular cargo storage pattern was to create this exact effect. Jack finished. Plus, remember how our engines got disabled at the start? I may have exaggerated how damaged they were. As if on cue, the Star Wanderer's engines roared to life. The ship began to move through the cloud of frozen coolant, its multiple reflections making it impossible for the pirates to track its true position. Scratch's voice came over the comm again, this time with unmistakable fear. All ships, open fire. Hit everything. It was exactly what Jack had been waiting for. As the pirates fired blindly, their weapons hit the reflective crystal field, some beams bouncing back at their own ships, others triggering the hidden defense turrets that Jack and the robots had positioned. You know what the best part about humans is? Jack broadcast to the increasingly panicked pirates. We don't just plan for things to go wrong. We plan for things to go wrong for our enemies. The pirates' formation broke as their ships tried to escape their own reflected weapons fire and the unexpected defense turrets. In the confusion, several ships collided with each other, their shields failing under the multiple impacts. Should we contact Space Patrol now? Blue asked, watching the pirates' retreat turn into a rout. Let's give them a few more minutes to appreciate that warning sign on our hull, Jack replied with a satisfied smile. I think they're finally starting to understand what it really means. The Star Runner Tavern on Beta Station was packed with its usual crowd of spacers, merchants, and crews from dozens of different species. But tonight, all eyes were on the holoscreen mounted above the bar, where the Space Patrol was giving their official statement. The notorious Red Claw pirate gang has been apprehended, announced the patrol officer, her holographic form floating above the busy bar. Their entire fleet was found in a heavily damaged state, with multiple ships showing signs of weapons fire and collision damage. The gang's leader, Scratch, surrendered without resistance, repeatedly mumbling something about human tricks and impossible ships. The tavern erupted in conversation. In one corner, a group of alien captains huddled around their table, discussing the news in hushed tones. I heard the Star Wanderer did this, one captain said, their tentacles waving excitedly. The ship with the human crew member. Impossible, another scoffed. One human against the Red Claw. They had over 50 crew members. At that moment, the tavern's door slid open, and Jack walked in with Captain Blue. The room fell silent as heads turned to stare at the unusual pair, the human and his crystalline captain. Just getting some supplies, Jack said casually to the bartender, seemingly oblivious to the attention. Oh, and the Space Patrol might want to check the asteroid field in Sector 7. We left a few trapped pirate ships there, engines disabled. Figured they'd want to pick those up too. The silence broke into a wave of excited whispers. Several captains approached Blue cautiously. Is it true? One asked. Did your human crew member really defeat the Red Claw single-handedly? Blue's crystalline form sparkled in the dim light. Single-handedly. No, Jack worked with our ship's systems, our maintenance robots, and our cargo in ways I never thought possible. But the results? He paused, his crystals shifting in what had become his version of a smile. The results speak for themselves. In another corner, a group of younger crew members were watching a shaky video on their datapads. Footage captured by one of the fleeing pirate ships. It showed the Star Wanderer seemingly multiplying into dozens of copies, all firing back at the pirates through a cloud of crystalline reflections. "Look at that," one exclaimed. "They're saying he turned cleaning robots into a security force." "I heard he rigged the whole ship with traps," another added. "Used cargo and ship systems in ways nobody had ever thought of." Jack, overhearing this, smiled as he collected his supplies. He remembered Captain Blue's initial reluctance about his modifications to the ship. Now those same modifications were becoming legendary. A nervous-looking ship's captain approached their table. "We're looking for crew members," she said hesitantly. "Would you happen to know if there are any other humans looking for work in this sector?" Before Jack could answer, 3 more captains joined them, all with similar questions. Blue's crystals pulsed with amusement as he watched his human crew member become the center of attention. "Funny how things change," Jack commented quietly to Blue. 6 months ago, nobody would hire a human. Now they're lining up." "The universe adapts," Blue replied. "Just as you taught our maintenance robots to play poker, you've taught the galaxy that efficiency isn't everything. Sometimes, the unpredictable solution is the best solution." As they left the tavern, they passed a newly arrived cargo ship just finishing its docking procedures. Its captain was supervising as crew members painted something on the hull, a fresh warning sign that read, "Notice, human crew member on board." Jack grinned. "Looks like we started a trend, Captain." "Indeed," Blue agreed, "though I doubt any of them have figured out how to turn cleaning supplies into weapons. Yet. Give them time," Jack laughed. "Humans are very good at sharing ideas." 3 months after the defeat of the Red Claw pirates, the Star Wanderer docked at the Greater Galactic Commerce Hub for its routine supply stop. As Jack supervised the loading of new cargo, he noticed something different about the massive station. Nearly half the ships in the dock now displayed some variation of the human crew member warning sign. "Quite a change from a year ago," Captain Blue commented, his crystalline form reflecting the colorful lights of the bustling spaceport. The Merchant Council's latest report shows pirate attacks have dropped by 60% in sectors with human-crewed vessels. Jack watched as a group of human crew members walked past, chatting with their alien captains about ship modifications and defense strategies. "You know," he said, "I never expected our little warning sign would start a revolution in space shipping." Speaking of revolutions, Blue's crystals pulsed with amusement. "The Galactic Standards Committee has requested our presence. It seems they want to discuss making some of your modifications official protocol." In the committee's chambers, representatives from various shipping companies and space patrol units gathered around a large holographic display showing the Star Wanderer's innovative defense systems. "As you can see," a committee member explained, "the human concept of repurposing existing systems has proved remarkably effective. We're particularly interested in the maintenance robot modifications." Jack stepped forward, trying not to smile as he remembered teaching robots to play poker. "The key isn't just the modifications," he explained. "It's understanding that every tool can have multiple uses. Humans don't just think outside the box. We forget the box exists." "Indeed," another committee member added. "We've analyzed the Red Claw incident. Your use of industrial coolant as a weapon was unprecedented. Yet it worked perfectly within existing safety regulations." "Because rules aren't always limitations," Jack said. "Sometimes they're just suggestions for creative solutions." After the meeting, back on the Star Wanderer, Jack and Blue received an unexpected transmission. It was from a small trading outpost near the former Red Claw territory. "You need to see this," the outpost manager said excitedly. "We just recorded an incident that proves your strategy works." The footage showed a heavily armed pirate ship approaching a small cargo vessel. But the moment the pirates spotted the human crew member warning sign, they changed course and fled at maximum speed. "They didn't even try to scan the ship," the manager laughed. "The warning sign alone was enough." Blue's crystals shifted in a pattern that Jack had come to recognize as pride. "It seems your reputation precedes you, Jack." "Not just mine," Jack corrected. "Every human out here is adding their own ideas now." "Did you hear about the crew that turned their ship's entertainment system into a psychological warfare device? Or the one that uses modified food replicators to create instant barricades?" "The galaxy is changing," Blue observed, "and it all started with one human who insisted on doing things differently." As they prepared for their next cargo run, Jack looked out at the stars through the bridge viewport. The ship's warning sign glinted in the starlight, no longer a joke or a deterrent, but a symbol of a new era in space travel. "You know what the best part is, Captain," Jack said, settling into his station. "Pirates aren't the only ones who learned something. Every ship with a human crew member is coming up with new ideas, new solutions. We're not just making space safer, we're making it more interesting." "Indeed," Blue agreed. "Though perhaps you could warn me next time you decide to teach the cargo loading systems how to dance." "No promises, Captain," Jack grinned. "After all, keeping things unpredictable is what humans do best." And so, across the vast expanse of space, a new saying began to spread among pirates and traders alike. "See a human warning sign, find another shipping line." Some called it common sense, others called it cowardice, but for those who knew the true story of the Star Wanderer, it was simply respect for a simple fact. Humans had found their place among the stars, not by following the rules of space, but by rewriting them entirely.